بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. السلام عليكم. How do I become a successful entrepreneur? Or how do I become a successful businessman? Those are questions often asked by a lot of us at different stages in our life. But in order for us to understand how to become successful businessmen or successful entrepreneurs, I think we first need to know the difference between entrepreneurs and everybody else in the business world or in the corporate world. And to explain that, I'm going to use a story. The story takes place in the 1900s, United States of America, where two entities were in competition over inventing the exact same machine. The first entity was Professor Engineer Samuel Langley, who at the time was financially sponsored by the United States government, happened to be a member of the board of a member of the High Board of Universities, and was one of the most famous and prominent characters of his time. The other entity, on the other hand, were two brothers who did not finish high school, who got all their financing from a bicycle repair shop, a small bicycle repair shop that they owned, and who lived in one of the most remote locations of the country, which didn't give them as much network as that of Professor Langley's. Now, if I were to ask all of you here today, who would you bet on, or who would you invest in? Who would you think will succeed at investing in the machine? I think most of us would go for the first person, for Professor Langley, because he has more qualifications. But to everyone's surprise, in the year 1900, the Wright brothers set flight to the first aircraft known in mankind's history. So what is it that they had and he did it? What was their secret ingredient of success? Was it money? It wasn't. It wasn't the network or connection. It wasn't even the scientific knowledge. What the Wright brothers had that Professor Langley did not was a need, a desperate need to succeed. Because for Professor Langley, success was an option. Had he failed, which he did, he would have still been a famous and a rich character of his time. For the Wright brothers, success was their only way out of their suffering. If they failed, nobody would have heard about them. They would have still been poor. They would have still lived in poverty. That made success their only option. And this is the case of almost every extravagant success you'll ever come across. It stems out of absolute necessity. When you make success your only option, you're probably bound to succeed. To put this in perspective, in the early 1500s, there was a Spanish general by the name of Hernán Cortés. He had a dream of establishing an empire on the shores of today's world, Mexico. So he built a fleet of ships, sailed all the way across the ocean, got to Mexico, and the first thing he did when he got to Mexico was to order his soldiers to burn all the ships. Cortés did that to instill a sense of urgency in his soldiers, to show them that their options were either death on a foreign land or winning the war. And that led them to winning the war and establishing what was known as the Aztec Empire, one of the most prosperous empires in human history. This stands to prove that success almost never stems out of comfort, but always stems out of hardship and suffering. Does that mean that entrepreneurs or successful people are the only people who suffer in their life? Does that mean they're the only people with hardship? Everybody has hardship in their life. Everyone is born with a certain amount of hardship that they go through day to day. The difference is a lot of people find a slight spot, a very small spot in their life with the slightest sense of ease or comfort in it, and they settle in it. They stay there. They call it the comfort zone. And I'll tell you a little secret about the comfort zone. It is never really comfortable. That is why you often run through people who have been working the exact same job for 10, 15, 20 years. When you ask them about it, they go like, I hate my job, I hate my house, I don't like my boss, I hate my salary, I don't like my wife, not my wife, like probably something about their life. This is because this person at some point in their life found this little sweet spot and settled in it, stopped resisting, stopped moving forward, and just stayed in it. And this is true of the human condition as well. A lot of nations go through a lot of prosperity when they start out of suffering. They keep going up until they get comfortable. And then they start failing. One of my very good mentors and professors, Dr. B.R. Shetty, taught me that success has two mothers and one enemy. Dr. Shetty told me that the enemy of success is comfort. Because we human beings are adaptive creatures in nature. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا, and mankind were created weak. The weakness of mankind is our natural inclination towards comfort, towards doing what's easy, towards staying content. And this is also true, as I said, of the human condition. We've seen a lot of nations throughout the history. They rise, and the minute they get comfortable, they fail. And this also applies to the business world. In the business world, you have a saying for family businesses. It says the first generation builds, the second generation sustains, and the third generation demolishes or destroys. This is because probably the first generation had a sense of urgency. They needed to build. The second generation did not build anything, but had some kind of education from their elders. The third generation, what I like to call the children of comfort, destroy everything. And I want to stop at one point here and just emphasize, because I've seen it happen a lot in my generation. A lot of people come up to me and they think that because someone is born into a more financially comfortable background, or someone is born richer, they have better odds at succeeding in life. And I want to say that this is absolutely wrong. Because people who are born into comfort usually live with the handout mentality. Mommy gave me this, daddy gave me that. They're used to being hand-fed. They're used to being given stuff. They don't have it in them to go out there and suffer and strive and persist to get what they want. So if you think that because you're poorer than someone, you don't have the same odds of succeeding, you're wrong. In my experience, rich people are the first ones to fall. There's a saying that we have. A lot of people nowadays, because of mainstream media, this also relates to the way the media controls our perspective of success. A lot of the time the media tries to romanticize and dramatize the idea of success. They try to glorify overnight successes. And most of the time they try to monetize success. They try to put a dollar value on successful people. And I want to argue this point using an analogy made by Peter Thiel, one of the most successful entrepreneurs of our time. Peter Thiel says, imagine a man who's very poor, coming out of poverty, starts a very small business, and year after year starts growing it up a little bit at a time. In 50 years, this man had done a lot of deals, traveled the world, and made $100 million. If I were to ask you, would you say this man is a successful businessman? I would say yes. If I told you now that this man, on the day he died, his 2-year-old son inherited $100 million from him, would you say that the 2-year-old kid is a successful person or a successful businessman? Probably not. Although both of them had the exact same dollar figure in their bank accounts, the father was a success story, the son was not. This stands to prove that success is not a destination. It's not somewhere you get. Success is just a journey. It's the 0 to 100. It's not the 100. And this stands to prove that money is never the end point of success, but it's just a byproduct on the path of successful people. So to those who ask, what is the formula of success, or what are the steps to becoming successful? I think this question in essence is wrong. I don't think there is a formula to becoming successful. But I know what is not the formula. If you think that success is going to come overnight, you're wrong. If you think it's going to happen without sacrifice, you're also wrong. And if you think you're going to get successful in your comfort zone, you are absolutely wrong. But if you're asking what is the first step on the path of successful people, it is to get out of your comfort zone. It is to get out and start giving up on the things you think you can't live without. You might lose sleep. You might lose some friends. You might as well lose some stature or money. But if you're not willing to sacrifice for your dream, then your dream is probably not precious enough for you. Imam al-Shafi'i has a famous quote of poetry where he says, "Safir tajid 'iwadan 'amman tufariqhu." Leave and you will find better than what you've left behind. وَانصَبْ فَإِنَّ لَذِيذَ الْعَيْشِ فِي النَّصَبِ, and set new homes, for that is the beauty of life. فَالْأُسْدُ لَوْلَا فِرَاقُ الْغَابِ مَا افْتَرَسَتْ, for had lions not left the forest, we would have never known how fierce of an animal they were. وَالسَّهْمُ لَوْلَا فِرَاقُ الْقَوْسِ لَمْ يُصِبِ, and had the arrow not left the bow, it would have never hit its target. And if you never leave your comfort zone, you will never get to where you want to get. It's just as easy as that. Now, you might wonder, what is it that keeps those people fueled, those successful people? What is it that keeps them going? What is it that makes them give up so much on their way to become successful without complaining, without feeling the fatigue, without getting tired, without getting angry? This thing is called passion. Anyone who's achieved anything worth mentioning in life had probably a very deep, deep passion towards it. So what is passion? From an intellectual intelligence standpoint, Imam al-Ghazali defined passion as the mixture between love and anger. Love and anger, two of the most powerful emotions experienced by humans. Entrepreneurs in nature are angry. They don't want to be poor. They don't want to live in poverty. They don't want to work 18 hours a day. They don't want to have a boss. And that creates a sense of urgency to leave their current situation in. But on the other hand, they have deep, deep love towards their endpoint, towards their goal, towards their target. They can imagine it, they can see it, they can envision it, while everyone else thinks they're hallucinating. When no one else believes in them, they can see it happening. And this is what keeps them fueled. This is what keeps them going. This brings me to the last part of my speech, and that is women and entrepreneurship. In the science of emotional intelligence and in the science of psychology, it is usually argued that women have a much deeper emotional capacity than men. And throughout history, a lot of women played most pivotal and important roles in the prosperity and well-being of their cultures and economies. At some point, though, men happen to forget or forego the importance of a woman in the economy. Namely in this part of the world. And to my surprise, you often hear them blaming it on religion. You hear people saying it's haram, it's not a woman's place, it's a man's world, those sorts of things. So I want to give the good example of Khadija radiallahu anha, who was a woman out of the Arabian desert, ran a trade organization that spanned all across Arabia and happened to have a lot of employees. One of those employees happened to be Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This stands to prove that not only is Islam for women being in the economy or being in the business market, but Islam is for women leading in the business market. And if the Prophet ﷺ worked for a woman, I don't think any of us can have a problem with that. Economically speaking, today more than 9 million businesses are run by women. And those businesses grow at 2 times the rate of same-sized businesses run by men. This shows that economies, cultures, countries that do not utilize women to their absolute full potential lose out and miss out on a lot of great opportunities of economic and financial prosperity and social outcome. I, as a man, was taught how to read, walk, talk, and dress, and eat by a woman. So I don't find myself, or any other man for that matter, in a position to dictate or impose what a woman can or cannot do. Now, in the end, we're all going to fall someday. We're all going to fail someday. It's just a case of nature. If you ever dare to try anything new, you're prone to failure. You're prone to failing. The problem is, most of the people, more than most of us, spend a lot of time, a tremendous amount of time, trying to build something to fall back onto, trying to build a safety net. Those people never really make it further away from their safety nets. They're stuck. If you're going to fall, and you might as well fall forward, fall out of your comfort zone, because at least then that will bring you one step closer to your target. The word used in Arabic to describe this world is dunya. It comes from the root word dana yadnu, dunya. It means the lowest place, or rock bottom. And if you're already at rock bottom, the only way you're meant to go is up. You're only meant to ascend. But the path up is difficult. The path up is full of resistance. My friend Hisham Jazzar likes to call the path down the path of least resistance, because anyone can slide down. But the path up is full of resistance. It's difficult. And when life resists you, you need to persist life. You need to have persistence in you. And take it from me, nothing in life can take the place of persistence. Talent cannot. The world is full of unsuccessful talented men. Genius cannot. The word unrewarded genius is almost in the dictionary now. It's almost a proverb. Education cannot. There is nothing more than ignored intellect out there and abandoned intellectuals. Talent and persistence and determination only are omnipotent. If you need your dreams to happen, I know you all came here today because you have dreams, you have ambitions, you want to be something, you have opinions, you want to vocalize them, but that's the easy part. Everybody has an opinion, everybody has a dream, everybody sees something that they want to be. If you want it to be reality, you need to get out there and do the work. You need to get out there and give yourself a reason to wake up in the morning every day and put in the effort. You need to stop giving yourself the excuse. If you think you're not succeeding because you're not rich enough, Steve Jobs started out in a garage. If you think you're not successful because you're not strong enough, Stephen Hawking changed the world from a wheelchair. If you think you're not succeeding because you're not educated enough, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was an illiterate. So you need to cut down on the excuses. You need to stop giving yourself the excuse. You need to stop waiting. I hear a lot of people nowadays waiting for the right time and the right place. The right place is right here. The right time is right now. I don't know why people get the notion that they're promised a tomorrow. Nobody promised you a tomorrow. You're not entitled to waking up in the morning. So if you are up to do something, you need to do it right now. That's the only time you have. One of my favorite sayings by Oscar Wilde says that this world is a merchant and it will sell you anything at the price of labor. This world is a merchant and it will sell you anything at the price of labor. So you need to get out there and pay the price. You need to get out there and labor and work hard. If your dream is dear enough to you and you want to see it happen, if you believe in the beauty of your dream, you need to get out there and make it work. A very famous quote of Arabic poetry says, من كان ذا حلم وطال به المدى فليحمه وليحمي أيضا نفسه من حلمه فالحلم يكبر أشهرا في يومه ويزيد دين الدهر حتى يستحيل فإذا استحال ترى ابن آدم راضيا من كل شيء بالقليل لا تقبلوا بالقبح يا أهلي مكافأة على الصبر الجميل. If you have a dream and you believe in the beauty of it, protect it. And protect yourself from it, because dreams grow much faster than their owners and the depth of time increases until it's impossible. Because you keep saying tomorrow, 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 and tomorrow never comes. And when the depth of time is impossible, you will accept whatever cheap price life gives you for your labor. You will take whatever life pays you for your years of struggle. If there is one thing I know in life, if there is one thing I have learned, is that nobody will ever pay you what you're worth. Nobody will ever give you what you're worth. Nobody knows your full true potential. Nobody knows what you are, except for you. So if you don't go out there and set your own price, name your own value, you are bound to take the price of life. And if you leave it to life to set your price, life will give you pennies on your dollar, my friend. And I'm pretty sure, inshallah, all of you will get out there and name your own prices and be very successful people. And thank you all very much for listening. God bless you.